everyone. Happy live stream Thursday. Welcome back to the VS Code channel. Every week we have these live streams. Always a fun time, rotating guests, but always amazing guests who have something great to show. So we're going to do just a couple of intros and little throwback TikTok Thursday before we bring the host on. But in the meantime, go ahead and let me know where you're watching from in the chat. Say hi. Very excited to have you all here. We have a great guest today. If you subscribe to the VS Code channel, you're definitely familiar with her. You've seen her in Copilot videos. You've seen her at VS Code Day on Python Pulse. She's amazing. So we'll definitely get to her introduction in just a little bit. Hello, Mike. Thanks for coming. Ish, hello. Oh, Pamela's in the chat. Hello. All right, so we have a great show today, like I said. But before we kick things off, we do like to do just a quick throwback TikTok Thursday so you can see a little taste of what we post on our TikTok channel.
So why can we implicitly convert some types in C# and not others? Turns out it's all about data loss. So here I have a byte, and when I try to implicitly convert it into an integer, that works just fine. When you try and go in the opposite direction, you're going to get an error and you won't be able to do that. Let's see why that's happening. So here, when you have a byte, obviously that takes up a byte of memory. However, an integer takes up 4 bytes of memory. So when we copy a byte into an integer, the runtime will prefix that number with a bunch of zeros to make sure there's no data loss. However, in the opposite direction, there might be data loss, as these 3 bytes might need to be truncated. Since the compiler does not want that to happen, you're not allowed to implicitly convert those types. In that case, you need to actually explicitly tell the compiler that you're aware that there's some potential data loss, but you're okay with it. You can do this by casting. And to cast, all you have to do is set the target type that you'd like in parentheses in front of the variable, and that will actually allow you to convert the type. Here, if I open up my variable explorer, you'll see we now have our variable x and variable b, and they're both an integer and a byte.
I love that one because on our TikTok and then also on our YouTube shorts, we post a lot of really cool tips and tricks like that. So if you were watching that TikTok and you're kind of like, how is she going from C# to Mermaid back to C#? That was Polyglot Notebooks. So definitely check out the Polyglot Notebooks extension if you're curious about that. But you can use C#, Mermaid, JavaScript, Markdown, SQL, F#, I think a couple other as well, all within one notebook, which is really cool because you can also share the variables and really just have a whole interactive experience just in one notebook with all the different languages. Okay, I see we have a lot of other people saying hello where they're from. We got Houston, Honduras, UK, a novice from UK. We love developers of all levels. Welcome. Let's see some more. Hi from the UK. We're the maintainers of the SQLTools extension Pamela will be using. Looking forward to the session. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. It's going to be a fun one. And a couple more hellos. So with that, let's go ahead and bring on Pamela.
Hey, hello everyone.
Hello, welcome. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm excited.
Me too. Oh my gosh, I am so happy anytime we can have you on. I think it's been a little while since I've hosted anything with you, but back on VS Code Day, it was so fun. So yeah, always a great time, and people are already pumped in the comments. Do you want to start off with just a little bit about yourself and then what you will be showing today?
Yeah, so I'm Pamela. I use she, her pronouns, and I am on the Python advocate team at Microsoft. So that means trying to help Python developers be successful with Azure and with Microsoft products generally, which is why I get to use VS Code a lot. And I do say VS Code, even though I'm supposed to say VS Code, and I'm trying to train myself out of it. But I love saying zzz.
Because honestly, I love it. It's nice. It's kind of like almost like ASMR.
Exactly, right? For your ASMR TikToks.
Exactly, yeah.
So I do quite a lot of, getting Flask and Fast API and Django apps working on Azure. Lately, of course, I work a lot on OpenAI samples. And I do a lot with databases as well. So that's what I'll be doing today is showing how we can use a Postgres database inside VS Code.
Cool. All right, I'm excited because this is not really something I work with a lot. So I'm always happy anytime I can be on these and also learn alongside everyone else.
Sweet. All right, so shall I dig in then?
Yeah, let's bring up your screen. And chat, as we're Pamela's going through, let me know any questions you have. I'll be monitoring the chat, and Pamela is more than happy to answer what you have.
Yeah, so that's my VS Code. I'm going to be working off of this this repo here. So if any of you want to do what I'm doing, follow along, or try this later, you can get this repo. I think it's also linked in the YouTube description.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty basic repo, but it's got what you need to get started. So let's take a look at that repo here. And the first thing I want to do is show how I can work with a Postgres database locally in VS Code. So when I'm developing with Postgres locally, I always use a dev container. I do actually have the Postgres app for my Mac. You can tell because there's an elephant up here, and Postgres is always represented by an elephant. Yesterday I clicked the elephant accidentally, but I was looking for the whale because it's so confusing that we have like these two massive mammals on my bar, and I just get confused. I'm like, oh no, I wanted the other.
No, I need the land one, not the water one.
Yeah, but like elephants, like whales kind of started off in the land, So anyway, I do have the Postgres app, but I actually find it pretty hard to set up that app, and I don't like having conflicts between my different apps, because for many of my apps, the table and the database is called the same because we use like kind of the same sample app, and I don't want to accidentally reuse that same database. So I like to have really isolated environments, and so that's why I use dev containers, and that's why you'll find this .dev container folder in all of my repos. With this dev container, I am able to have a Postgres database entirely inside this developer environment and not have it leak into any other environments, which I just think is just so cool, and I love it so much.
It does. It makes it so much easier when, like you said, you're working on multiple projects that kind of use the same thing. You can have that segmented, like, okay, I know what I'm doing in this environment is all that I'm doing for the sample app right here. I'm not like accidentally touching something else. I know I have everything we need. It just gives you so much more peace of mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful. And the way this happens is, it starts off with devcontainer.json, and this one references a Docker Compose. And that's pretty much what you have to use if you do want to have a Postgres database in your dev container. And in this compose, you can see that I have, my app, which is the code I'm actually working on. And, that's just based off of the code in there. But then I have a database service, and the database service is based off the official Postgres image. And, it's configured with some local, local authentication. And then I have a volume for that Postgres database that it uses. So this is the basics of how to have a dev container that has Postgres inside it. And you can see in the ports tab that I've told it that the Postgres port is 5432. So that's exposed at least for the app to use, so that the app can access 5432, which is the default Postgres port inside of it. Okay. So we have that Postgres set up. So how do we prove that it's working? Well, we can do a couple things. So since we have the SQLTools folks here, let's start off with SQLTools. So SQLTools is this really nice extension for browsing SQL databases in VS Code. So I always have it, in any of my repos that use databases. And you can see here in the extensions list in my devcontainer.json, it says SQLTools. And then also I have the Postgres driver for SQLTools here. So depending what kind of database you're using, because SQLTools works with tons of different databases. So Postgres, SQL, PostgreSQL, probably MySQL, et cetera. And it just has different drivers for each of them.
Okay.
So bring those in. And then I even have, I even set up the default connections like for local. So you can even do that either in your settings.json or your devcontainer.json.
Cool. I didn't know you could do that in your dev container.json. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the most I can, whatever I can set up in here, I do. I even try to set it up for the Azure database, but I'm going to have to fill some of those details in later. So I got as far as I could. So that's set up. So then you notice that it's got, a database, username, password, and these all match what was in that Docker compose.yaml. So it's okay to have these because this is a local database, right? We wouldn't want to have this for production database, like check in our password. Bad idea. Please do not check in your password. But it's okay for this local database because you can't access my local host. I can't access your local host. It's like,
there are a couple of quick comments. People are commenting about your light theme, obviously, too. It's all personal preference. You can do
I actually usually use solarized. We'll change it to solarized.
Oh, I like the solarized. And then someone actually also asked on your sidebar on the left, what are the 2 last extensions? What are those icons for?
Yeah, we've got the Azure extension, which I'm going to be using. And then we also have the Copilot chat extension. And you can see that I was trying to use that for debugging an issue earlier. So we could try using that at some point today too. Cool. So those are because we have, these are all default VS Code. And then we've got SQLTools, Azure, and Copilot chat.
Awesome. Thanks.
Sweet. All right. So SQLTools, we've got that connection set up. And you can see here that it's already connected. If I wanted to disconnect, I could press this little icon here. And then, once it's connected, I can browse and see what the database looks like. And what you'll see is that there are no tables right now. Not very exciting. Let's make some tables.
Let's do it.
Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to be using Python. As I mentioned, I am a Python advocate. So I've got some packages already loaded into this environment. So I've got psychopg2, which is the weirdest package name and sounds psychotic to me, but that's the official official, but it's a standard package for working with Postgres. I've got SQLAlchemy, and then I've got .env for loading in a .env file, and then some other ones that we might use later. So one option for connecting to a SQL database in Python is to directly use psychopg2. And if we want to do that, we'd first need to load in our environment variables. I always, for local, I always do a .env file. So I've got like sample.env files here, and then I can load them into this .env file. So right now, my .env file is set up with everything I need for that local connection. And once again, this matches what I put in that Docker compose.yaml. Okay. So all these things need to match.
Okay. And just a reminder, you mentioned that this repo is available for everyone. So if people just pull down this repo, they'll have all this configuration basically started, and then they can essentially just start up their dev container and be on their way.
Yeah, the only thing you're going to have to do is I never check .env files into source control, because sometimes people do put secrets in there. So you'll notice my gitignore has .env in it. So the first thing you'll have to do is just copy this one into a .env.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I should make a README. Okay, README.
To do.
into .env. Okay, thank you. Thanks. Great. All right. Great point. So so we load in that .env, and we get the pass host user and name. For local, we are not going to use SSL. So generally, when you're developing locally, you don't use an SSL connection to the server, but when you're in production, you hopefully do. So this is how we could connect in psychopg. And this is how we can execute SQL statements. So here I'm just executing straight raw SQL statements. So we can do, if we want to, do this, just do direct SQL statements, you could do it just like this. So let's try running this. Okay, no errors. That's a good sign.
That's always good.
Yeah. Now we go to SQLTools, and we go here, and it's actually already refreshed. If you didn't see it, you could click on this little refresh icon here. So sometimes I do manually refresh, but we do see it's already here. So that's really cool. And then we can click on that and we expand it, and we can see the schema. So we see it's got an ID, which is the primary key. And it also has a name, which is a varchar with a max of 255. Now we can click on this little magnifying glass that says show table records, and we see a single record, not a very exciting one, but it has inserted this single record there.
Cool. And you can just inspect that all in VS Code. That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a couple questions just before we got. So Danilo, sorry if I didn't pronounce that correct, from Brazil asks, how stable is the connection to the database?
I've had a lot of success with it in terms of it just staying connected. Luckily, the SQLTools extension makers are in the chat, so they can comment if they've seen any connection stability issues. But I have not had issues with it in my experience.
Cool. Yeah, and just for those of you in the chat, that's coming from George James Software is commenting about the SQLTools extension. I think we had another question saying, how did you get SQLTools in VS Code? The answer is the SQLTools extension.
Yeah, so I have it in my dev container already, but if you don't have it yet, just search for SQLTools. So first download that and then get the driver for whatever, whatever database you're going to be using. So you can see they've got Postgres driver, SQL driver, Snowflake driver, all of that. So as I mentioned, you can just start, if you're going to be using Postgres, you can start from my Postgres playground because it's all set up in the dev container. I also have a SQLite playground. So if those of you who like SQLite, you can find that I have a SQLite playground as well. That has a little bit of a different setup because of the driver requiring, requires Node, I think. Yeah, SQLTools use Node. So those are the two playgrounds I have because those are the two that I use the most often. But you should generally be able to download SQLTools and then the driver for whatever you need.
Cool. Okay, just a couple more questions and then we'll let you back into your demo. Okay, Brills asks, do you also use Nex, K-N-E-X, to interact with your database? I know nothing about Nex. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
Wait, I'm trying to see where K-Nex. I actually also know nothing about K-Nex.
Okay.
Great question. I think Olivia and I will both be researching.
Googling that after, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good question. We like when we get those. And then Waterbonkel also mentions you can make the Docker Compose YAML pull in variables from the .env, so you don't need to match them manually. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think I did experiment with it, and I don't remember why I'm not doing that anymore. So pull requests are welcome if you want to send a PR for this repo. That'd be super cool to find at the end of this stream. Because I think what I was trying to do was actually reference env files in my dev container.json, and I think I had some issues with that. But that's a good point about your Docker Compose that it probably should be able to reference .env. So that would be a nice way to have less redundancy.
Cool, love it. All right, thanks for the questions, y'all. Keep them coming. But yeah, Pamela, let's see what's next.
Okay, all right. So this is cool if you are into raw SQL, and some people are, I guess. No, to be fair, I do use raw SQL if I'm doing like data analysis on like a read-only database. But when I'm doing like web apps, I always use an ORM so that I can model my tables using, object-oriented programming using classes. So the most popular Python ORM is SQLAlchemy. So that's what I'm using here. And I'm using SQLAlchemy 2.0, which has a new style of defining columns, which works nicely with Python type annotations. So I do encourage everyone to upgrade to that style if you're using SQLAlchemy. And I have 3 videos on the VS Code channel about using 2.0. So you can check those videos.
Awesome.
But here we go. Yeah. So we, imported stuff from SQLAlchemy. We define the base for all our models, and then we can define our individual models, and we give it the table name. And you can see now I've got 3 columns here. So the ID, the name, and I've also added an address. And then I set up the connection. And this is really similar to before. It just looks slightly different. But, once again, I use SSL on production, but not locally. There was a question about whether SSL is really required in production if you're, on the same server. It may not be required. I've gotten used to always requiring it, at least for Azure. So I think different servers, treat stuff differently. But if you are deploying to Azure, I recommend always requiring it. Otherwise, you'll get this particular error that indicates that it needs it. So yeah, it's a good point. It may not always be required, but I've gotten used to always requiring it when deploying to Azure.
Cool.
Then okay, first I drop all the tables. Now, don't just willy-nilly drop tables. I can do this because I'm in a demo, but you should be careful.
Proceed with caution.
Yes. And then, so this actually drops the whole schema, which means like dropping, even the table name restaurant,
Like
not
really
just
drop.
data.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real drop. Then I do create all. So that looks at all this, the classes declared and then creates tables for each of them. And then I create a new session that uses this, engine with the connection. And I add a bunch of restaurants and then I commit, which will actually really do the add. Then I do a query and get some results. So let's just print those results. And let's try running this. All right, so no errors. And you can actually see, because how did I configure this? So you can actually see in the logs here, you can see the SQL that was executed, which is really nice. So we can confirm like, okay, yeah, this is what we wanted.
Right.
Cool. So now let's go ahead and look at SQLTools again. And this time, when I click on here, I can see all of those things that got added. So, we can keep on, checking SQLTools to make sure that everything's working how we expect.
I would love to have 10 cheese shops.
So I was doing it because I wanted Copilot to like be more creative, but there's other ways. So what you can do is be like, create a list of 10 cheese shops with funny cheese names.
Wait, you asked me with cheesy names.
With cheese. Cheesy names. Okay, let's see how we do. Oh, is it going to do it like this? No, I'm going to start it off with, okay, thanks.
Cheese shop.
Is this really what it's going to do?
Doing just every location.
Well, let's see if it even does it count correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, it counted.
We got 10. Yeah, I'm not sure if I call this. I mean, they're cheesy in the sense that cheese is in the name.
Very good. Okay, so we've got those great cheese shops now. So you can use Copilot generate data. What I do more often is I use Faker. So we do like F equals Faker. Let me import Faker up here from Faker, import Faker. And Ruff wants to fix my imports. Okay. And we go back down. Okay, we have F as a Faker instance. And then I'm going to say use Faker to create a fake address. Thank you. And then I'm going to do address equals f.address. So this is going to use Faker's address generation, which is really nice. And this is something I talk about in the YouTube series. It's very nice because it really looks like a real address. When you ask Copilot to generate addresses, it's always 123 Main Street, 456 Main Street, 789 Main Street.
Not much variation, yeah.
Good job, Copilot. So let's see. Oh, it says it got unexpected name, address. Oh, my parentheses are off. Heavens. Okay.
You spotted that so quickly, though.
I
would have been staring at that for like 5 minutes and be like, why?
Well, yeah, I did teach a Python class to 2,000 students.
I'll do it.
Might be used to seeing bugs. It's cool. Now let's take a look once again at our awesome data. And we can see that the cheese shop of Des Moines is located at the USS Neil. Which I assume is a submarine. Okay, cool. So we have some data. Now, this is all locally. The thing that I really wanted to show today is actually making a Azure database and being able to interact with that from VS Code. So is there anything on this that we should talk about before we go into making an Azure database?
I'm scrolling through the chat. I don't see any new questions. Just Rodolfo says Copilot is not trained for humor yet.
I don't know. It cracks me up though. All right. So it's also it's very helpful as well. All right. So let's make an Azure database. So I'm going to be using the Azure VS Code extension, and you can see I've got that in my dev container. It's this one, the Azure Pack. So the Azure Pack brings in a bunch of different functionality. You can also see if you want to find it. Maybe we just search for Azure Pack. Yeah, so I think it's called Azure Tools.
Okay.
Is this it? Yeah, here we go. And it's from Microsoft, as you might imagine. And you can see it's already enabled in this dev container.
Awesome.
So we go to the Azure icon, and we can see here all the resources under this subscription. And you can see I already do have quite a few Postgres servers. As I said, I do a lot of testing of databases and web apps, but let's go ahead and make a new one. Why not? So we click the little plus. So I did that real quick. Do it again. So we click the plus, and then say create database server. And we give a bunch of options. I'm going to do flexible server. You also see this single server option. That's kind of like on the way out. Flexible server is the new cool thing to do.
If you want to be cool, do the flexible.
Exactly. Now I'm going to give it a name. VS Code test 3. And then I'm going to pick the SKU. So I'll just go with basic so I don't spend more money than necessary. Basic B1MS is around like $12 a month. You can't get lower than that right now with the Postgres servers, but $12 isn't bad depending on what you're doing, right? And then of course we've got many other SKUs as well. But if you are just doing this as a trial, then you don't want to have to pay. But there's also, I think it's part of the free tier. If you've never made a Postgres server before, I think you get one Postgres server free.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, and that's good to know. I think a lot of times people think, because a lot of times when you sign up for Azure, they'll see, oh, I have to put in my credit card, and they immediately think they're about to get charged a ton. There's a lot of free tiers and free options. Like even though you might have to do that initial sign-in, you can still never actually get charged for anything if you kind of stay within those free tiers.
Yeah. So definitely look into that because I'm pretty sure Postgres has one free database, but double check anything, before you embark on a cost journey. So now I need to put my admin username. So I'm going to go with admin123. Awesome. And then password. So the way I'm going to do the password is that I've got one pre-stored in here that I'm going to use, because the hardest this stream was figuring out how to not show you my password. So I'm going to use it from my 1Password app. When I'm doing this for production apps, I typically store the password either in in the service itself, like app service and container apps have their own kind of secrets ability, or I store it in Azure Key Vault. So that's what I do when I'm making a database server that I'm going to use with a production app, is that I use some sort of secret functionality in order to store that password.
Cool. It's always a good practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I see sometimes people store their password in kind of the environment variables, like the application settings for app service. But then it's too easy to accidentally see it. So you always want to use some sort of something specifically designed for secrets that will make it difficult to see it and not accidentally expose it.
Right, makes sense.
So you can see down here that is creating the server. It says it should be ready in several minutes. I, of course, have one that's already made and ready to use so that we don't have to wait for it, because it can take some time. Any questions before we start using it?
Someone asked again about what theme you switched to. I think you said it was Solarized.
Yeah. This is Solarized Light. So for me, it's a nice level of light and contrast.
Yeah, I definitely like that too. Someone else just said they've been loving having VS Code with Copilot, GitHub Copilot in chat helps them write queries and views. So just some love.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use Copilot Chat for writing my bash scripts. That's my
Oh,
favorite thing to do.
smart.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to ever really learn bash.
Yeah. I feel like that's like, you got to find like the things with Copilot that like just really speed up your development workflow. For some people, that's going to be one thing. For others, going to be something else, just kind of depending on your background. Yeah. If you want to know bash or not, but it's really great in certain instances.
Yeah. So yeah, so let's use one of my pre-made servers. So you can see in the list here, we've got VS Code test 1. And I've actually already connected to it. So what you can do is you can, click on, the database and say connect to database, and it'll actually connect to it and even show you some details about the database. So this is almost has the functionality of SQLTools, but actually not that much. It does show you some things. So right now it only has these default tables, which is job and job run. So these are ones that Azure made. So I could connect to this database. All right, so let's get connected to this one. So it's called VS Code test 1. So what I'm going to do is copy this into my .env. I'm going to delete the password because I'm not going to reveal the password to you. And I've got it already in the environment. And I'm going to set the host to this. So this is the name that I came up with. And then this is always the rest of the URL. The user was admin123, and this was the database name. And then let's go to our file here. And so it should now grab everything from that .env file. The DB pass, I already set that in my environment to what I hopefully used when I set it up. So hopefully that should work. If not, I have a backup option. But yeah, so let's try it out.
Cool. Dun, 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 dun. And I think someone just joined in and said, is this PostgreSQL? So yeah, this, if you just want to say real quick that you made this in Azure, it's the flexible server.
Yeah, this is the PostgreSQL flexible server from Azure. And now let's take a look and refresh. And here you see restaurants. So we can see that on our actual production database, we have now made a restaurants table.
Dang, that was so easy just to move from local to that. Like, I actually thought that was going to be a lot harder. Like, and all of a sudden we just were there.
Yeah, we really just have to, set up these credentials. Now, part of this is that, okay, yeah, to be fair, one thing you have to do is that in your Postgres server, you do have to allow your current client IP. I already allowed it for this one. So there is a step before. Let me see if I can do it with this one. Let's try connecting. And what it might do is prompt. Oh, did I already allow that one too? Okay. I'll show it in the portal. Let me show it in the portal so that you can see. So I think that the VS Code extension actually tries to do it for you, but just in case the VS Code extension doesn't do it for you, I'm going to show what it looks like. I think it's still making test 3, right? Oh, maybe it exists now. Let's see. Okay, so I think that exists now, which is cool. Now we can go to networking, and then in order to be able to connect to this from my current computer, I need my current computer's IP address to be allowed. Okay, so what I do is add current client IP address. And so that makes a firewall rule, which allows just this address and not other IP addresses. There's also ones where you can allow any Azure service. So the best practice is actually to always put your server inside a VNet, a virtual net with like your app service, your container app. But it all depends on what you're doing. So, just keep security in mind. But you do have the option to say, okay, this particular IP is allowed to access it.
Which is great, especially just for like quick demo things like this. We were just kind of playing around, just nice little click the button, we're added, we're good.
Yeah. So that is the step you have to do. But I do think that the extension tries to do it for you. Yeah, actually successfully set up credentials for the server. So let me see if we can, because I think I did really similar. I think I tried to use the same stuff. So let's see if we can now run the same code on that second server. And we'll expand this. And
while that's loading, someone asked if they're going to have issues with, adding their current IP if they're on a dynamic IP.
Well, if you're on a dynamic IP, I think your current, like your IP at this time is fixed, right? So you should be able to temporarily do it. But yeah, you might have an issue when your IP changes. There was actually a similar issue in Codespaces, because I was originally going to do this in Codespaces, and you can you could allow the current Codespaces IP address, but then it could change over time. So here's the discussion about that, because I thought people might find that interesting. So Codespaces, on their roadmap, they have a plan to make it possible to actually access a Postgres server that's inside a VNet.
Okay. Cool. That's awesome.
Because I also see questions. So can this work through an SSL tunnel to an Azure compute? So I haven't tried it. So if this doesn't work, so I know my colleague is always doing stuff in Azure Cloud Shell. So if you're not able to use VS Code, there's also Azure Cloud Shell, which usually has better access. You could also try using managed identity and default Azure credential. But so I haven't tried every permutation of how to access a database.
Cool. Yeah. So Karma Komodo, try it out. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that one actually didn't work. So it might be that I don't have that one set up yet. So we'll go back to this one. So do make sure that you check your check that the networking is allowing the particular IP address.
Cool. And that's good to know, though, for people who might be trying this at home. It looks like you'll get kind of just a connection error if you maybe have to still do that one last step.
Yeah. So if you get some connection error, what you got to do is you got to, go back to your portal and check your networking, check your, you can go check this connect. Connect will show you your connection string. I'm not going to show you in case it shows the password. You can check the server name. You can check the login name. So just check that all those details are matching, and then the networking is set up appropriately, and that your SSL is set to require when you're connecting to an Azure server.
Cool. Good to know.
There's a question about which version of Postgres. So currently I am connecting to, it looks like the default right now is 12.15, but actually they have quite a few other versions available. So you can, I think, go all the way up to 14 right now, possibly even 15 when you create a Postgres server. So let me see, Azure PostgreSQL flexible server versions of Postgres. So I think we can definitely go to 14, possibly even more. I don't know if it's going to say here. But yeah, keep that in mind, because here's the thing is that it's actually hard to change your version after the fact. So if you know you want a particular version of Postgres, you should start off specifying that version, because if you need to change the version, you have to spin up a whole new server and then do like a PG dump, dump your data out and then bring it back in to the new one. Because the servers are actually, they're pretty significant in terms of big major versions, like 12 to 13 to 14. They are, significantly different. So you can't change that after the fact. There's actually a bunch of things you can't change after the fact for Postgres servers. So you can't change the admin username. You can't change the version. So some things you have to be certain about before you make that server.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah. So you don't find yourself in a little pickle after and having to basically put it into the new one. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so now let's show using SQLTools. So let's go back to SQLTools. So for SQLTools, what I can do is edit you can even make a brand new connection. So we could try making a brand new connection to show what it's like. So we are doing Postgres
and our elephant.
Yeah, with our elephant. Connection group, we don't need that. Okay, so the server address is going to be this. So we'll go and put that in there. The database is going to be Postgres. The username is this. And then use password, I'm going to say ask on connect. And then I'm going to say SSL enabled. Okay. So I think I've got it all set up correctly. Save connection, connect now. And now it wants that password. So I'm going to go to my 1Password. Let me do it again. There we go. Enter the password. Connecting, and it connected.
Nice.
And it starts off, it always gives you this blank file for SQL. Feedback to the extension creators, I never use this file. And then when I exit out of it, it always says, do you want to save changes? But I didn't make any changes. I know I should open a pull request. Yeah, so we are connected. So now we can take a look and go through here. And we can see the restaurants. And now we can click that magnifying glass and see all the records in it.
Nice. So seamless.
Yeah. And you can, so in SQLTools, you can do lots, like you can run queries. You can do like filters in here. Oh, didn't spell cheese right. Okay, there we go. They all have matched cheese, as it turns out. Let's see how we do. Okay, so generate insert query. Yeah, you can insert, and it's got an insert statement already made. So there's a lot you can do in SQLTools. I would caution that when you're on a production database, you maybe shouldn't be doing that much, but I don't know, it depends like what you're using your database for. Like maybe you're doing like data analysis. If I'm connecting to a database locally like this, I'm probably just doing a lot of selects on, like existing data and not actually, trying to insert more data, but you do you.
That's awesome. Let's see. So someone asks, is this a core VS Code function or just an extension feature? So this is the SQLTools extension that's being shown right now.
Yeah. Yep. So you just search for SQLTools and you find the one from Mateus Teixeira, and you also find the drivers, and then you'll be all set up.
Cool. Awesome. I think that's all the questions right now. Rodolfo says, what a cheese database. Kind of database.
Cool. Yeah. And so let's get some more data in this database. I thought it'd be nice to have a bit more data than just this. So I found a good, list of like 100 restaurants. Okay, so it's like 130 restaurants, and I just found this on Kaggle. It was from a machine learning study or from a user study, I think. So this has lots of data in it. So how could I load this in? There's lots of ways you could load stuff into a Postgres database, but I found a cool technique that uses pandas. So I thought we could try that. So we're gonna load geoplaces2.csv using pandas. So we're gonna import pandas, and then we're going to read the CSV. There we go. Don't know how it was encoded, so I'll just leave that off. So it's gonna read the CSV, and now it has a bunch of columns in it that I don't have in this data. So I'm gonna, maybe I'll add some of these, right? So some of these look like maybe interesting. So maybe I'll add these ones. Let's see how quickly we can add these to the table. So add columns for I'm gonna do latitude, and that should be just a float. Going to do longitude. I don't even know what the geometer is, so I'm not going to do that. Name is a string. Address we already have, so we can delete that. City, state, country, facts. I don't think we need facts.
I was going to say, people still using facts?
Yeah, so let's keep let's do that. Let's delete that. Let's see, we already have name and address. We don't need facts because I don't know who uses that. Okay, so we have all those, and then I'm going to tell Pandas to keep only the columns we need for the restaurants table. And so then we can do df, and then we tell it which columns we want. So it's going to be these ones.
Nice.
Yeah, this is what I do like Copilot for, is that it's actually really good at referencing your previous data here. So that creates a data frame with only those. And then here's the really cool thing I discovered last night, was this ToSQL function where you can tell it to, reuse a SQLAlchemy engine. So Pandas actually knows about SQLAlchemy, which blew my mind. So we're going to tell the table, the engine, tell it whether it should append or replace. And then actually I'm going to tell it to use index of ID. That's our primary key. I think that's right.
Dang, that's so cool. I did not know you could do that.
Yeah. I only discovered this very recently. So let me just try that out. Let me see. I'll I guess just delete these. Bye. All right. So let's see. Is it gonna work? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so it created the new schema. It inserted lots of things. Let's go ahead and check our SQLTools and click on this. We can see the new schema. And then we can look at this and see that there is lots of data.
Nice.
And we can use the pagination now because we've got multiple pages.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
So that's cool.
That's awesome. There are a couple questions coming through. Someone asked, will my connections be stored in the project folder?
Yeah, good question. So you'll actually notice if I go back to my File Explorer, you'll see that it has made a .viz code folder with a settings.json. I assume that the extension did this. I've actually never developed an extension, so I don't know the mechanics of how these things work, but you'll see that in here, it does actually have these things saved. Luckily, it doesn't have my database because I told it it's going to ask for password true. So what I normally do is that I actually usually just delete this because I like to use what's in the dev container. But, if I was reusing this connection all the time, then you could just save it in your settings.json. And, it's up to you whether you check it in or not. You may not want to check it in, given that it has a server URL in here, and you may not want people trying to brute force their way into it.
Yeah.
So SQLTools, the settings do automatically get put in the settings.json for you.
Awesome. And then Rodolfo also asked, he said, I assume that this approach can also be used for Jupyter Notebook. So using the pandas and the ToSQL and everything.
Yeah, like the notebook. Here we go. I think I could just copy paste this and put it in a cell.
Probably, yeah.
See if it works, right? I have to choose a kernel. I'm so bad with this. How do we Python?
Yeah, sure. I wonder if because
I'm in a Python 3.11 dev container.
Oh, okay. So I think it would find that.
Yeah. I'm not sure why it can't find the kernel. It's probably something about how my dev container is set up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have to ask my Jupyter colleague Sarah for ideas. But yeah, this should all run fine in a notebook once you've got the kernel set up.
Awesome. And then Waterbunkle just also kind of did a mention of the Rainbow CSV extension for anytime you're working with CSV files. It kind of colorizes it so that it's a little easier to read.
Let's try it. Maybe I should add that to my dev container. So if you're working on a dev container, you can just click on this thing and you say add to dev container.json, and then it puts it in your dev container configuration automatically. So now you can see it's in my dev container. So let's see what it looks like now. Wow, look at that.
Adds a little pizzazz.
We love rainbows. That's really nice. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we got all that data in. What else? I think that was a lot of what I wanted to show, actually. We can do some more queries, right? So let's do some more queries. So let's, now that we've got that query, query the database. So I presume that if you're connecting to a let me see. I'm going to use the context manager approach because it'll automatically treat this session correctly. Okay, so we're going to query. So with session engine, it's engine. And then we'll just get all restaurants in Mexico. And here we've got a select statement. So yeah, we can start off with a select statement, and then we execute that statement and get back the results. And here we go. Print those out. And here we can see all the names here. Now we can get a little fancier. So get all restaurants inside a bounding box around Mexico City. Oh, I don't know. Is it going to know the latitude longitude?
Oh, interesting. Oh. So this is getting a little fancier. That is fancy.
Yeah.
Geography really in there.
I don't actually know if this is the bounding box for Mexico City.
No idea.
And instead of actually doing this, print all restaurants thing, I'm just going to say print results. And then what I'm going to do is go up here, and I have a few options. I can add a repra myself. So repra in Python is how things are represented at the command line. So we could do a repra like this, and that'll be nice. So let's try that again. Print results. And I'm going to not drop. So I'm just going to just do the queries this time because we don't need to keep on dropping our schema. So this should work. Let's see. Okay. So we do see that it found these are the results from the first time. So there you can see the repra. We didn't find any results for the latitude longitude search. I think that's because legitimately it doesn't have anything in the data for that. Mm-hmm. So I'll change it to something. So I think it does have it. I've already looked at the latitude longitude for this. So I think that this search will work. And yeah, now you can see these results are inside that bounding box. So we can do more complex queries. I want to show one other way besides repra. So repra is nice to have a nice display of a Python object on the command line. However, SQLAlchemy 2.0 also has integration with Python data classes. And the way you do that is you add on mapped as data class as an additional subclass for your base class. And then we can remove the repra because it has an automatic repra. Oh. And then you might have to, I think we have to do init equals false here. Let's try this out. And we might need to oh no, it did work. Okay, so what you see is that now it has an automatically created repra. So every time we see a restaurant, it shows every single detail of it. So definitely recommend checking out mapped as data class, which is in SQLAlchemy 2.0, because you'll get some nice things like that, like the automatic repra, but also just some other things will just work better.
That's so cool. All right, we're coming up on the last few minutes. Okay. So there's Breath LP says, "What is this sorcery?" with the latitude longitude, and then Water Bunkle must have actually looked up the latitude and longitude because they said that's actually right. So
I did find a website, Bbox Finder, which is a cool website. And I just have to. No, that's not what I want. Here we go. So this is what we actually ended up searching. But yeah, Mexico City is presumably, isn't it like, gosh, I've been there. I should know. Oh, yeah. So Mexico City's lower down here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. Copilot knows it. This is so cool. And I feel like so many just like really quick tips too of like how to make it even more efficient and how to like use what's already built into your advantage, and just kind of knowing those tips and tricks. Because I feel like, I know like I'm definitely nowhere anywhere close to your level of Python, Pamela. So I feel like I knew like the very like basics, and then like you would just bring up, oh yeah, but when also we can do this, and you can automatically have these repros. I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. So it's always really cool to see that.
Yeah. So as a reminder, if you want to, do what I'm doing, I've, got a good starting repo here where it's got a lot of this stuff already set up.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's going to be in our video description. It's also on the screen right now. So you can go ahead and check out all those links after this. And then also the SQLTools extension, I believe we also have linked in the description.
Yeah. And the actual author just posted in the chat. That is so cool.
Oh, wow. I love that. Thank you so much for all your work. I love anytime we can, this is what it's all about, right? Is the community and like getting to see these amazing tools that people build and seeing them in action. That's awesome.
Cool. I'm a big fan.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Pamela. Before we, is there anything else you want to show? Actually, I guess in the last couple of minutes, or all good?
That's
cool.
That's all.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and close out with just a really quick lightning round of just a few questions, just kind of the first thing that comes to mind. So this is always polarizing. GIF or GIF?
GIF.
GIF. Okay.
And I will say that I have a long history in GIFs, in animated GIFs specifically, because I was on the web back when animated GIFs were first getting started. And I even accidentally shared animated GIFs of dogs going to the bathroom with Carl Sagan in a chat room way back then. It's a crazy story. But anyway, that's
awesome. I was not expecting that little tidbit from that. I love it.
I do love animated GIFs.
Okay. Similar question. I think you said this a couple times in this stream. So JSON or JSON?
Oh, JSON.
I always have to think about it too. And I'm like, wait, which one do I say? I say JSON too.
JSON. Yeah.
JSON.
JSON.
Okay. More personal one. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Dark mode. No.
Everyone in the chat just fire.
No, I like in terms of programming, I get really disturbed by like white space, like missing white space. Like when I did lots of JavaScript, what I hated would be let's go in the JavaScript console. When you have a like if blah, and then the curly bracket just right next to it.
Yeah.
Okay, I hate it. Looks like the curly bracket is stabbing the parentheses. It is violent. It's so violent. So I need a space there. Otherwise, I just freak out.
All right, good to know. I will never have you review code where there's not that space there.
Yeah, I know. I was reviewing code yesterday, which had a like in Python, it had a hash, and then like the immediate. I was like, no, we need space. We need space.
That's awesome. Our viewers like that. They're all saying LOL. Okay. And then last question. What is one VS Code extension that you cannot live without?
At this point, like Copilot probably is the one, just because I have like a 1-year-old baby, and I basically like she's always napping on me. And so I only ever have one hand. And that one hand can only type so much. So I'm always like, Copilot, just tab. It's like my hand's falling asleep. So right now it's been particularly helpful this year, since I only have like half a hand that I get to use. But besides that, probably SQLTools is actually one that I do.
That's good.
And somebody actually asked about SQL versus SQL. I actually have an entire video about that I made for Khan Academy way back when, because I created an SQL course for Khan Academy. So you can watch my video about SQL versus SQL.
Ooh, okay, I'm looking that up right after this. All right, that concludes our lightning round. Thank you so much, Pamela. It's always such a joy to have you on here. I feel like I always learned so much from you. The viewers loved it. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Like I mentioned, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, so that way you can see the recorded upload of this. And then it will have all those great links in the description. And then while you're at it, you can go ahead and subscribe to us on TikTok as well if you want, just to kind of see some of the shorts that we post. All right, well, with that, Pamela, I'm sure we will have you on again at some point in the future too. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you everyone for watching. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.